What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
Aloha, America. Welcome to our show today. It is Thursday, August 27th, 2020. Sure happy it's Thursday. Sure happy it's Thursday. Sure happy it's Thursday. We've got a lot to talk about today, and as usual, we're going to do news until we run out of news. Then we open the phone lines for your comments, questions, opinions, and so forth. Hurricane Laura made landfall last night as a Category 4 hurricane. Didn't quite reach Category 5. It made landfall near Lake Charles, just trashed the place. Winds of over 150 miles an hour, 9 feet of storm surge, according to the Weather Channel, just ripping the roofs off of stuff. They still can't get in there to see how bad the damage is. I mean, there's been overflights and, aerials. The Cajun Navy is deploying now to Louisiana and Texas, to try and help as many people as possible. But it's bad. This is one of the worst storms we've had in a very, very, very long time. And it is now, Laura is now a tropical storm, and it's over Arkansas. It's about ready to travel over Little Rock there. And Friday night, it'll be over us here in Indiana, or just south of Indiana. Anyway, those who didn't evacuate were told to write down your name and keep it in a Ziploc bag in your pocket. So, yeah, there was an airport that got destroyed, and I was seeing these pictures of all these ruined airplanes and wondering why they didn't fly these airplanes out to safer places. If you've got a mobile asset, get it out of the way of the storm. Or, I don't know, maybe these people wanted to cash in their insurance and get a newer airplane or something, but it was a real mess there. There's been a chemical plant set on fire by the storm. They're trying to deal with that one. And the hurricane is heading towards where most of the major gasoline refineries are. So we could actually see a gasoline shortage in the very, very near future. Okay, tonight is night 4 of the Republican National Convention. And Trump will officially accept the nomination for president for the November election, and he's going to do it from the White House, which of course has got the Democrats up in arms, violation of the Hatch Act, and he can't do that. And there's Trump could tie his shoes backwards and they'd complain. I mean, that's where the Democrats are the party of the gratuitous complaint. I'm going to rebrand them at this particular point. Whatever's going on, complain about it. That makes you a Democrat. Anyway, apparently C-SPAN, after night 2 of the RNC, 16 of the 18 callers enthusiastically pro-Trump, including Democrats. Now, it depends on who you talk to as to where the polls are going, because I'm seeing pro-Trump media, both of them, saying that Trump is neck and neck with Joe Biden, and you've got the liberal medias out there saying, oh, Biden's way ahead, Biden's way ahead. And we've already busted them for oversampling Democrat voters to get the numbers that they want here. But according to this story that came on out of Station Gossip, the president has gained 3 points on Biden. The race is a dead heat. Black support is up to 29% after 2 nights of the convention. And that is significant because normally the Democrats count on the black population to simply vote en masse Democrat, like they don't have to work for them. Well, maybe this time you're going to have to. And I think what's going on is all this Black Lives Matter thing is backflashing. And it's made the brand toxic. And I think most black people don't want to be associated with that anymore. And so they're moving away. And the only place to move when you're a Democrat is toward the Republican side. Anyway, Donald Trump will deliver his Republican convention speech to a crowd of 1,500 on the White House South Lawn and slam Joe Biden in a law and order address, calling himself the only barrier between America and anarchy. And right now, it certainly sounds like he may be the only one. Although Kamala Harris was out there making a speech a little while ago saying that it's Donald Trump's fault that all these riots in these cities have gotten out of control. Everything's Donald Trump's fault in the mind of a Democrat. They're going to find a way to blame Donald Trump for Hurricane Laura. You watch. Anyway, President Donald Trump is going to deliver his remarks from the South Lawn. The live audience will likely top 1,500. And he's going to further distinguish himself as the law and order president and the last defense against the radical left threatening the American way. This comes as riots, looting and violence continues to ravage Kenosha, Wisconsin in the wake of Jacob Blake's shooting. Vice President Mike Pence spoke Wednesday evening from Fort McHenry in Baltimore for his convention speech, which also touched on the recent tension. He blasted Joe Biden for saying no miracle is coming on the coronavirus, calling him nothing more than a Trojan horse for the radical left. President Trump joined Pence on stage after his speech. Okay, Donald Trump is now demanding a drug test before the first election debate, with Joe Biden claiming that the Democratic rival was not coherent in the party's primary debates until the final showdown. And so Donald Trump is willing to take his own drug test, but he wants to make sure that Biden is not being juiced up for the debates. So he's basically insinuating that Biden boosted his final primary debate by taking drugs. And it may have happened. I mean, anything goes in politics. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Nancy Pelosi is out there saying she doesn't think there should be any debates. And she's out there joining the chorus of prominent Democrats trying to avoid placing Joe Biden in front of the audience in a debate with President Trump. Pelosi said earlier today, I don't think there should be any debates. And this is just one day after President Trump demanded Biden take a drug test before the two square off. I wouldn't legitimize a conversation with him, nor a debate in terms of the presidency of the United States, she added. Pelosi said that Trump was disgraceful when he stalked Hillary Clinton during the 2016 debate by walking near her, and that he will probably act in a way that is beneath the dignity of the president. Frankly, Nancy is looking like she's nervous. She's definitely scared that Biden is not going to hold his own. There had been talk of a fourth debate early next month because of the early voting, and I'd say at this point that's not going to happen. The Democrats will not allow it. But how can you have a presidential election without presidential debates? I mean, that really shows just how desperate they are to want to cancel the debates. What are we going to do? Vote for the person with the best commercials? Well, Trump doesn't make his own commercials, and neither does Biden. It's ad agencies and political consultants who basically are available to the highest bidder. Anyway, there's an article that came on out of Global Research up in Canada describing Kamala Harris as the archetypical flawed U.S. political candidate. And basically, she's the archetype of what the contemporary U.S. politician has become, one who works ceaselessly for the donor class and who thus is beholden to powerful lobbies. This has informed her record as a prosecutor and legislator who's committed to the perpetuation of America as a carceral state. She's also a servant of the national security state, which means she will maintain the bipartisan arrangement which has ensured that America has remained committed to the militarism which has characterized its foreign policy since the ending of the U.S.-Soviet Cold War. Over on Twitter, which was supposed to be a woke social media, well, they've unwoke themselves. And they went after Melania Trump for being an immigrant and a woman following the RNC speech. And basically, they were allowing these anti-Republican partisans online to abandon any pro-women and pro-immigrant rhetoric to mock Melania Trump's accent, appearance, and even to doubt her visa following the First Lady's RNC speech. Remember what Bette Midler said, get that illegal immigrant off the stage. Now, Bette Midler has apologized after she was called a racist for the comments that she made here. Anyway, Melania urged to stop the violence in the ongoing anti-racism protest and express her sympathies for Americans hurt by the coronavirus pandemic. And basically, they're criticizing her for having an accent. Bette Midler tweeted she still can't speak English. She speaks 5 languages, by the way, is my understanding. So apparently, these so-called fact checkers are going to great lengths to hide Joe Biden's support for late-term abortion. That one apparently is not polling very well. Democrats, including Biden, refuse to put any limits on abortion even up until the minute of birth or shortly thereafter. I'm sorry, you've got a viable baby right there in the delivery room, and you're going to go ahead and just kill it because the mother changed her mind? I have a real problem with that, by the way. I really do. Now, Wayne Dupree is out there saying that Hillary's advice to Biden not to concede, even if he loses, shows the Democrats intend to win by hook or by crook. This is a big danger to our democracy and could end in violence. Remember how violent things were in 2016 when Hillary lost there. So basically, Clinton is confirming what President Trump has factually stated, with millions of unsolicited ballots being mailed in and with several states declaring that counting will be extended indefinitely until all mail-in votes are received, even those that arrive after Election Day. There is no way that all votes can be counted on November 3rd. That, of course, means the Democrat-run states will have the opportunity to stuff the ballot boxes, and that's basically what they're going to do. Here's a real shocker, if you will. If the election isn't settled by Inauguration Day, guess who gets to be president temporarily? Nancy Pelosi is Speaker of the House. All right, turning to our domestic riots. Let's call them what they are. They're riots. They're rioting out there. Fox News host Tucker Carlson came on out and said, "How shocked are we that 17-year-olds with rifles decided they had to maintain order when no one else would?" And of course, Tucker Carlson is now accused of justifying murder in the commentary on the Kenosha gunman charged with killing 2 protesters. However, there is a new video that has surfaced that shows Kenosha shooter Kyle Rittenhouse was shot at first, that he was in fact defending himself. Now, newly uncovered video evidence indicates the shooter may have fired in all cases in self-defense. 3 shooting victims who attacked Rittenhouse have arrest records and may be felons. One was carrying a handgun, possibly illegally. Facebook has removed the Kenosha militia page following the deadly shooting. And again, this is all over the police shooting of Jacob Blake. Crazy out there. I was reading a story just before we went to the airtime about this guy in Brooklyn, black gentleman who raped this 20-year-old white girl and then beat her up. And when he was arrested, he said, well, she deserved it for slavery. I mean, that's how completely wacko this whole thing is getting here. Apparently, law enforcement requested 750 National Guard members in Kenosha on Tuesday. Government Evers sent 250. So Tony Evers rejected the White House's offer to assist with the request and only provided 250 members. The Democrat governor declared a state of emergency Tuesday following 2 nights of civil unrest. While he increased Wisconsin National Guard support from 125 to 250, local authorities told the White House they needed at least 750 in anticipation of Tuesday's protests/riots. Now, Don Lemon is out there on CNN saying the rioting has to stop because it's showing up in the polls and it's going to hurt Biden. In fact, there was one comment apparently during that Kenosha situation where somebody screamed, "Are you trying to get Trump elected?" So Don Lemon is facing a backlash after condemning riots in Kenosha, Wisconsin, not because of the violence and destruction, but because the optics aren't good for Joe Biden and the Democrats. Well, he's certainly right about that. The optics aren't good. The brand has become toxic. Speaking to fellow CNN anchor Chris Cuomo on Tuesday evening, Lemon said the protests were a blind spot for Democrats. He said the party was ignoring this problem or hoping it will go away, and it's not going to go away. I mean, this is really getting silly. There's actually a dinosaur museum in Kenosha, and apparently some of these rioters toppled a statue of a Dilophosaurus. Why? Racism. It's racist. The dinosaur was racist. Apparently, I don't know. I've seen Dilophosaurus. I don't know why somebody would think it's racist. But they knocked it over and they broke it. And anyway. So here's a story that really kind of gets to it. It's Russia Today. Black Lives Matter is a noble cause, but harassment, coercion, and bullying won't advance it. It'll just make the brand toxic. Viral videos have emerged this week of Black Lives Matter activists abusing individuals for not raising a fist. BLM is a needed and noble cause, but incidents of intimidation and harassment will do it nothing but harm. There's a saying that goes, a bad apple spoils the bunch. Sometimes bunch is replaced by barrel, but that's not really important right now. It's one of the most depressing phrases of the English language because it means some idiot or idiots is ruining something good they're part of. And I've been saying that for a while. You know, the perception of Black Lives Matter is turning negative. So, up in Portland, protesters are tear gassed after marching on an ICE building, and at least 11 people were arrested after throwing rocks and eggs at officers and refusing to clear out during the 91st night of demonstrations. 91 nights. This has gone on way, 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 way too long here. Apparently, Black Lives Matter protesters on a march from Milwaukee to Washington, D.C. for the anniversary of Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech exchanged gunfire with Pennsylvania property owners Monday night, and one of the protesters was treated and released from a hospital after being hit by shotgun fire. And there, I think, is a warning. People are realizing the police aren't going to come and protect their property and protect their lives and their safety, and they're starting to fight back. And that's a very, very dangerous and chaotic situation here. Okay, up in Minneapolis, there's been an incident where there was a black murder suspect that, rather than be arrested, shot himself dead, committed suicide. Somebody started the fake news that the cops killed him, sparking looting and violence. More rioting going on in Minneapolis. Over in Seattle, the police are accusing protesters of attempted murder after they tried to trap officers inside their burning precinct using quick-dry cement. Surveillance footage from the incident appears to show protesters stacking up plywood against the East Precinct door as the fire is set nearby. Cops released images of the door they say was covered in quick-dry cement to keep it shut and had its electronic keypad destroyed, leaving officers forced to smash their way out of the building. Insane. Just insane. Anyway, over at the NBA, the players are boycotting all playoff games in response to the Jacob Blake incident. So if you're a basketball fan, well, too bad here. This one really came across as a surprise. Okay, when students return to university next week, many will need to prepare for living and eating only with people of the same color. Whatever happened to the dream of a desegregated country? Racial segregation in U.S. universities is back with the advent of black-only dormitories. The Washington Square News, the undergraduate newspaper of New York University, recently reported the university was willing to help implement residential communities open solely to black-identifying students with black residence assistants. NYU aims to establish such a segregated residential floor by autumn of next year. We're going backward, is what's going on. We're going backward. Remember, we were supposed to do equality and equal access, and now all of a sudden they're setting up again. You know, colored over here, whites over here. All right, turning to the international news here. The Pentagon revealed Thursday that China's People Liberation Army's warning to the U.S. on Wednesday involved the firing of 4 medium-range missiles into an area between Hainan and the Paracel Islands. Among them included a nuclear-capable DF-26 missile and the anti-ship DF-21D ballistic missile. Beijing said they demonstrated the PLA's ability to deny outside military access to the South China Sea. The missiles were fired in response to the major incident from Tuesday, wherein China's PLA military angrily charged that the U.S. U-2 spy plane entered a no-fly zone off China's coast while the PLA conducted live-fire military drills. So the U.S. is acting as a picador with China. And there's going to be a point of no return for the Chinese government. Anyway, the PLA has since ratcheted up its drills, with Financial Times reporting Thursday the military announced it was conducting another live-fire exercise in waters off the eastern city of Taizhou, bringing the number of drills off its coast this week to 5. Okay. All right, we're taking a break here for some commercials, and we'll be back with more news after these few words from our sponsors. Stay tuned. Welcome back to our program here, and a reminder that Republic Broadcasting is in a perpetual state of fundraiser. We need your help to keep doing what we're doing. We don't have any large corporate sponsors or any foundation grants or anything like that to keep us going because, well, frankly, if we did, we'd have to report the news that the foundations and the corporations wanted us to report, and that's not what Republic is all about. Anyway, the postal address where you can send a check, Money order, or if you prefer anonymity cash, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can send where you can make a credit or debit card donation is 800-724-2719, extension 3. The network thanks you. Okay. Following the seizure of those tankers full of gasoline, the United States is going to tighten Venezuela sanctions. President Donald Trump has allegedly expressed frustration that sanctions have not succeeded in ousting the Maduro government. The White House's hardening stance comes less than 90 days ahead of the November presidential elections, which Trump hopes to win the support of Latin American emigre communities in Florida. Starting with financial sanctions against PDVSA, that's the Venezuelan oil company, in August 2017, the U.S. Treasury Department has imposed successive rounds of measures targeting Caracas' main source of income. A January 2019 oil embargo was later expanded to a blanket ban on all dealings with Venezuelan state entities. The South American nation's oil production has plummeted, falling from 1.911 million barrels per day in 2017 to a decade-low record of 336,000 barrels per day in June. Now, Venezuela's foreign minister and the Canadian public are calling for no military operation against Venezuela. This is how Venezuelan Foreign Minister Jose Arrizia, direct from Caracas during the August 20th, 2020 historic Zoom conference, responded to a question about the threat of a U.S.-led military intervention in Venezuela. Maybe they, Canadian government officials, can listen to this conference. I am so sure that I don't know if the minister, but people from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Canada are listening to this conference, to this exchange, and they are taking notes. Hopefully they rectify, and they will never support, not now or in the future, a military operation against Venezuela. Okay, Russia is having a major weapons show at the Kubinka Air Base, Alabino military training grounds, and 70 nations are participating in a display of more than 730 pieces of Russian weapons, equipment, and industrial exhibits. Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu said the ongoing Army 2020 event will enable the Iranian delegation to inspect the latest Russian equipment. So Iran is shopping for weapons in Moscow and ignoring the U.S. offerings. Well, what would you expect? I mean, you know, the way the U.S. is behaving toward them. We're going to slap you around, please buy our weapons? I don't think so. Turkey's Erdogan is talking tough again. He's warning Greece against taking the path to ruin. Erdogan says Turkey would not give up what it deserves in the Mediterranean Sea, warning Greece against making mistakes that would pave the way to its ruin, as the two countries remain locked in a dispute over energy resources in the area. We will not compromise what is ours, Erdogan said on Wednesday. We are determined to do whatever is necessary. We invite our counterparts to beware that any error could pave the way to their ruin. The remarks came after Greece said it would launch joint military exercises with France, Italy, and Cyprus in the eastern Mediterranean. That happened yesterday. Now, Netanyahu is vowing a forceful response if more attacks come from Lebanon. And he said that Israel views with great gravity the latest flare-up on the Lebanese border and pledged a tough response in the event of further incidents. Meanwhile, Lebanon is complaining to the United Nations Security Council about Israel's border escalation. And apparently Israel has been firing white phosphorus flares over the border. Now, white phosphorus is banned for use other than as a smoke-generating agent. To generate smoke to cover your movements. You're not allowed to use it against people and structures. But Israel routinely does, and they've routinely used it against structures and people in Gaza here. So Lebanon is going to complain to the United Nations Security Council, says it will file a complaint with the UN Security Council about a recent Israeli attempted escalation that saw the regime fire dozens of flares over the country's borders. The country's Supreme Defense Council announced the plan during a meeting chaired by Lebanese President Michael Aoun on Wednesday, Lebanon's official news agency reported. Okay. All right, an envoy from Qatar is traveling to Gaza to try and help ease tensions there amid the Israeli raids. And a Qatari envoy has visited the Gaza Strip to help calm down tensions in the blockaded enclave, which has been the scene of daily Israeli attacks for more than 2 weeks. Mohammed El Ahmadi entered Gaza late on Tuesday for negotiations to help ease the tensions. Since August 6th, the regime has been carrying out daily airstrikes and occasional ground attacks against Gaza in response to what it calls the launch of balloons filled with incendiary devices from the direction of the coastal enclave. Concomitantly, it has shut down Karam Shalom, the crossing, bringing in the majority of the enclave's requirements, and completely cut off all supplies of fuel to the territory. We have to take another break here for commercials, and we will be right back. Welcome back to our show here, and apparently Joe Biden's campaign is saying they will debate, or Joe Biden will debate President Trump here, despite Nancy Pelosi saying that he should not do that, and there's a big discussion going on about who would have the advantage in the debate and so forth and so on here. Anyway, the other day we were talking about how the United States is once again pressuring the IAEA to inspect these 2 sites within Iran, which have been inspected before, nothing was found. But the United States just wants to keep this thing going about Iran, maybe doing nuclear weapons. We've got to keep checking. We've got to, keep them on the defensive here. And as long as the U.S. keeps demanding the IAEA look at these sites, Iran can never really put the issue to bed. However, one day after the UN Security Council president dismissed the U.S. snapback sanctions, Iran and the IAEA made a deal. And Tehran has struck a deal with the UN's nuclear watchdog to allow inspectors into 2 suspected former nuclear sites. The breakthrough comes just days after Washington demanded the UN slap Iran with fresh sanctions. Well, that already tells us they're not going to find anything there. Anyway, in a joint press statement, the International Atomic Energy Agency said on Wednesday that Iran is voluntarily providing the IAEA with access to the 2 sites. Inspectors believe that these sites still contain nuclear material, but an Iranian official told Reuters that this information is fabricated. Iran, like before, is ready to cooperate with the IAEA, Iranian President Hassan Rouhani said on state television after the announcement. I am very suspicious of this next story. Okay. NCIS is investigating a U.S. sailor for arson aboard the USS Bonhomme Richard that left $761 million amphibious warship gutted and 68 firefighters injured. Now, the reason I'm suspicious is because I'm remembering back when the gun turret exploded on the USS Iowa and they tried to blame a suicidal gay sailor. And then it turned out that the real culprit was improperly stored propellant for the guns and a loading error. So I don't know. I'm having a hard time believing that a sailor set fire did that much damage. That's a lot of damage here. I mean, if one sailor who's an arsonist can destroy an entire warship, I mean, have you ever heard of like saboteurs from the enemy? Are the ships that fragile? Are they that delicate? Maybe. It's not like the U.S. builds anything anymore that really works. In fact, this next story, apparently there's a German defense contractor, Hensoldt, has a newly invented radar system named TwinViz, which reportedly tracked F-35s for nearly 100 miles. So the F-35, world's most expensive fighter plane, and it turns out it's not very stealthy after all. Anyway. All right, let's talk about COVID-19. And apparently over New York City, Mayor de Blasio was saying restaurants may open their indoor dining next year sometime. I mean, it's August, September, October, November, December. We're talking 4 months minimum before restaurants can open their indoor dining. There's nothing scientific about this. It's going to wreck these restaurants. It's going to wreck New York. Anyway, you've probably been wondering why coronavirus seems to hit men harder. Well, it turns out, according to this story in Hideout Now, women's bodies mount a stronger and faster immune response against the disease. Men may be more likely to suffer severe cases of coronavirus or die of the disease because they have weaker immune responses, a new study suggests. and they're still out there trying to sell the official story. Those who protest against the official COVID-19 narrative are categorized as psychopaths. A diabolical process is underway, which consists of identifying all those who are opposed to the government's management of the coronavirus pandemic. According to ongoing psychological studies, these opponents are categorized as antisocial psychopaths, shades of the Soviet Union. The unspoken objective is to shunt the emergence of an organized protest movement pertaining to social engineering and the decision taken worldwide at a political level to close down the national economies of more than 150 member states of the United Nations. Peer-reviewed psychological studies are currently being carried in several countries using sample surveys. Accept the big lie and you're tagged as a good person with empathy who understands the feelings of others. My goodness, you can probably hear in the background there's a lot of thunder outside. We're under a thunderstorm right now. Hopefully we'll keep our electricity and our internet going. The U.S. economy plunged an annualized 31.7% in the second quarter. That is a huge, huge amount. The U.S. economy shrank at an alarming annual rate of 31.7% during the April to June quarter as it struggled under the weight of the viral pandemic. It was the sharpest quarterly drop on record. Over in China, they've got a growing agricultural crisis. They've got swine fever, floods, droughts, a deadly outbreak of African swine fever that halved China's huge pig herds in 2019 was followed by infestation from a plague of fall armyworms, which reached China in December 2018 and now threaten China's corn belt. Now, the worst floods in some 60 years are wiping out major rice and other crops in central China along the Yangtze and other rivers. Food security is one of 6 national priorities for national security. President Xi Jinping has just issued a call to citizens not to waste food or face penalties, a sign that the depth of the food security threat is far worse than thought. Now, China is out there saying there's no need for panic buying of food and oil. China's food supplies remain stable and consumers should not be overly anxious or even resort to panic buying, a senior agricultural minister official said on Wednesday following recent uncertainty caused by the coronavirus pandemic. Still, farmers and traders should prevent food waste caused by improper storage, while farmers who stockpile in the hope of later gains should be wary prices could turn against them. Ministry official Tang Ke told a briefing. President Xi Jinping raised the issue of food security earlier this month when he spoke about shameful food wastage, while a government think tank has warned about a looming food supply gap by 2025. Food wastage is a problem, and not just in China. It's a problem here in the U.S. as well. In a throwback to 2019 optimism on the U.S.-China trade deal, the Trump administration has shifted from vaccine pump headlines to trade. Bloomberg cites several sources who say that after top U.S. and Chinese trade officials reaffirmed Phase 1 trade deal commitments earlier this week, China is planning to purchase a record amount of soybeans. The sources estimate total purchases could be around 40 million tons this year, an amount that would be 25% more than the level seen in 2017. All righty. Now, we're going to go ahead and open the phone lines, 800-313-9443, 800-313-9443. It is being estimated that keeping kids out of school because of the coronavirus could cost the U.S. economy $700 billion with a B or more. And a lot of people are focusing on the wisdom of sending kids back to school as the nation continues to work to get the coronavirus pandemic under control. Now, here's a bizarre story. The other day, we were reporting on how an artificially intelligent fighter pilot was able to beat a human fighter pilot in a simulated air-to-air combat. And it looks like artificial intelligence is definitely making inroads in the defense, because there's this article that came out of global research asking if robot generals will make better decisions than humans or worse. Okay, with COVID-19 incapacitating startling members of the U.S. service members and modern weapons proving increasingly lethal, the American military is relying ever more frequently on intelligent robots to conduct hazardous combat operations. Such devices known in the military as autonomous weapon systems include robotic sentries, battlefield surveillance drones, and autonomous submarines. So far, in other words, robotic devices are merely replacing standard weaponry on conventional battlefields. Now, however, in a giant leap of faith, the Pentagon is seeking to take this process to an entirely new level by replacing not just ordinary soldiers and their weapons, but potentially admirals and generals with robotic systems. Well, where are you going to pin the medals here? Okay, just sending a message to our control room here. Well, late last year, the United States Space Force was created, separating Space Command from the United States Air Force into a new separate branch of the U.S. military. In the last few months, there has been some debate over whether Space Force should maintain the rank structure of the Air Force, with lowest ranking officers as lieutenants and highest rank as generals, or use the U.S. Navy system with ensigns and admirals. Now, apparently, Star Trek's first Captain Kirk, William Shatner, is weighing in on the debate, and he thinks the Space Force ought to use the Navy ranks, just like Star Trek. Come on, Bill. I mean, really here. Of course, I can imagine from his point of view, he probably looks at the new Space Force as the beginning of a real-life Starfleet. Could injectable micro-robots one day run in your veins? There's been a lot of talk about nanotechnology. It was supposed to be the coming thing. And like so many other new technologies, it hasn't really worked out as well as expected. Part of the problem, of course, is how do you combine control circuitry and moving parts on such a small structure? But apparently scientists have created an army of microscopic four-legged robots too small to see with the naked eye that walk when stimulated by a laser and could be injected into the body through hypodermic needles. Microscopic robotics are seen as having an array of potential uses, particularly in medicine, and U.S. researchers said the new robots offer the potential to explore biological environments. Okay, we have, let's see. We've been talking about Jerry Falwell Jr., who had to resign from Liberty University following this sex scandal, which involved the pool boy and his wife. And so he's resigned now, but apparently because of stipulations in his employment contract, he may get about a $10.5 million severance payout from Liberty University. And apparently Falwell is out there saying he's free at last, and he's owed the massive payout. So he's due $2.5 million, constituting 2 years of his salary plus a one-time payment of roughly $8 million as part of a contractual clause giving Falwell full pay if he resigned with restricted responsibilities, the source told the paper. Wow, that was close. Got a big, big thunderstorm overhead. All right, let's go to the phones now. Paul in New Jersey. Hello, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, Michael. Michael, I'd like to make some comments about Kyle Rittenhouse. He was the 17-year-old gunman in Kenosha, Wisconsin.
Yes.
And for one, you know, I do have a problem with people who cross state lines to get involved in another state's problems. I have a problem with that. I do. I don't like that. I think you should remain in your own state, keep your politics to a local. But we have to remember he's a 17-year-old kid.
He's also apparently a police wannabe. He was part of one of those police auxiliary young people's groups, and clearly wanted to be a cop.
You know, I watched some of the videos last night, Michael, and actually you could see that the police had very friendly relations with Rittenhouse and his gun-carrying militiamen. Mm-hmm. And so I would argue, you know, I suggest the defense lawyer consider this implicit or tacit deputization that happens, because the cops were sharing water with them and handing them bottles of water and letting them be behind the police lines. Mm-hmm. So clearly this was a very synchronized and working together, and the police appreciated them and they appreciated the police. Very friendly relationship. So I would argue, first of all, that Rittenhouse was deputized. They were. It's assumed by the relationship with the police. Now, and another thing about it, when he was being attacked by a group of people, remember, that was basically a lynching. And he was about to be lynched, and that was a lynch mob, and they were going to extrajudicially beat him in the street right there. And the fella who caught one in the chest, beating on him with a skateboard, would have continued beating him with that skateboard if Rittenhouse didn't have the presence of mind to grab that AR-15 and pop him in the chest. So in every one of these instances with Rittenhouse, you can see he's totally reasonable. He's great constraint. As a matter of fact, he makes the policemen look like amateurs. He's better than most common policemen, I would argue. He's much better. Because if you look at the criminal records of everyone he shot, all three of them had long criminal records, were involved with all kinds of crimes. And in a sense, he did society a favor by what happened. Now, to conclude my remarks, I just want to say, what a shame society is where there is no law and order to such an extent that a 17-year-old boy has to finagle, and I don't know how he got his hands on that assault weapon. He has to cross state lines in pursuit of justice. And the shame goes right to where it belongs, as I argued, to Donald Trump and Bill Barr for letting these riots continue over the past 3 months. Also, the shame of these craven and despicable Democratic governors of these states who have let this continue. It's a disgrace that this has happened. Also, it's a disgrace that the media, and I would argue the apologists, and this is a cultural problem because part of the media psychopathy is this apologizing to the blacks and mollycoddling of the blacks and their criminals and their propensity to create criminals while nobody wants to. And who do people blame it on? People on the right? Oh, they blame the blacks are producing the criminals because it's the government's fault because the government gives them welfare. That's what they do. That's what these conservatives do. The fact of the matter is, if you're creating criminals, shame on those people and shame on your neighborhoods.
Okay,
so
Paul,
that's what I wanted to just say.
I got to put you on hold. We're going to come right back to you after these words from our sponsors. Welcome back to our show here. We're talking with Paul in New Jersey. We're talking about just where is all the crime and craziness coming from. Paul, take it away.
Yeah, listen, let's be honest about this. This is mostly what causes this. It's all these incidents that spark this off are with black people, right? I mean, George Floyd wasn't Asian, right? Rodney King wasn't Asian. Trayvon Martin was an Asian, and Jacob Blake, he is an Asian. They're black, and they're the byproduct of the black community. Now, where does it become part of the culture where they believe, or people believe, that you have some kind of guarantee not to get shot or killed by police when you act in a threatening manner in a tense situation? Right? These people, and then why should others, and that's what's, ironic about the shootings by Rittenhouse, is that the people who were shot were all white. And these are white people riding over Jacob Blake getting shot by the police because he misbehaved when dealing with the police. All he had to do was just deal with the police. And the worst is maybe getting, brought to the jailhouse and being processed and released on bail. That's not such a bad thing, right? So why does the white people, get caught up in, why does this justify rioting and going out on the streets and creating mayhem? And this is, again, it's the failure of the Justice Department from the top down, the failure of the governors, and likewise the failure of the, I would say, mostly African-American community who create these criminals. But it's also the failure of these whites who get caught up and empathize with the dysfunctional black community. And that's why these whites are even worse, in my opinion, for taking up the black cause. Because it's not your cause, that's their people. They have a propensity, hey, look at the crime stats. They're the ones siring these criminals. But I just don't get it why somebody would want to take up another people's burden when it's a stupid burden. It's not any, it's not like oppression. It's not like slavery. What? It's
just an excuse to loot and go on mayhem.
Exactly. And that the criminal justice system is doing nothing about it. And that's what, to sum it up, that's what's tragic about this. Now there's a 17-year-old kid who volunteered to try to seek justice for the world, to stop all this insanity. Now he got caught up in it. He didn't want to get lynched. His only sin is surviving. And now he's going to be martyred and tossed in prison by Bill Barr, I'm sure. And Bill Barr won't, do anything to stop that. And let's see if Donald Trump pardons him. And on that note, thank you, Michael.
All right. Thanks, Paul. We got to take a break for station identification, and we'll be back with more phone calls after these few words. Welcome back to our show, hour number 2. Boy, it is really coming down outside, and hopefully we're going to be able to finish the show without an interruption to our internet or our power. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443, and we're going to go to Joe in Tennessee. Hello, Joe. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Hey, Mike. I'd like to say first that I agreed with a lot of comments made by Paul from New Jersey, but there's a couple things that I'd like to comment on. One is he says that he doesn't understand these white protesters becoming part of a black cause. And you have to understand, these guys are radical communists, Satanists. A couple of the guys that the great Rittenhouse killed were, I think, Jewish. And they're radicals, and they're going to hijack any kind of movement, whether it's black, whether it's Mexican farm workers, whatever brings about their cause of a new world order, a Jew world order, the communist world order. They're going to join in. They don't give a damn about black people. If they gave a damn about black people, they wouldn't be out there stirring up crap and helping burn down black neighborhoods and getting black people shot. So I think he's mistaken in that belief. These people are trying to hijack any kind of cause. And that's what's so delightful about the great Kyle. I like to say now Sieg Kyle, because we have a new hero in America. And if you notice, the media, who normally would be having Facebook posts where he's made racist comments and all that, they're really staying away from this kid, aren't they? You know why? Because everybody in the country is loving him. I mean, he just put two people in the grave, two radical communists. Put one. I mean, I can't get enough of watching that one that got shot in the head. I mean, these are people out there. These are just rotten individuals. And not only that, the class and the coolness under fire. I mean, I've been in a lot of scrapes in my life. And this kid, I mean, he technically, a lot of people would have got up after shooting the guy with the skateboard and blowing the guy's arm off with the gun and just kept shooting at other people. But he maintained his cool. He walked down the street. I mean, after he shot the first guy, he tried to call the police. And then he walked down the street and they tried to lynch him. And he shoots the guy. What an idiot. He brings a skateboard to try to attack a guy with an AR-15. He deserved to die. That's a Darwin Award winner, But he's a Superman, He thinks he can just attack the Goyim, because that's what our job is. But it is also funny how now there was peace in Kenosha last night, huh? And all of a sudden, everybody's out. Oh, we got to have law and order now because, a couple Jewish guys got killed. See, we can't have that in America. We can have store owners getting hit by bricks by blacks and other radical Jews and other radical communists and Satanists. Oh, who cares? Let it happen. Oh, but I really want to look into these Jewish guys that got killed. I want to find out if they were working with the government in one way or another, or Barr. Because you notice how after they got put down, that all of a sudden this we got to have peace now. Oh, we can't have this anymore. Can we? Not in America. So, I think I'm going to write in Rittenhouse when I vote this year, because he's done more for law and order in this country than Donald Trump or Bill Barr. And Bill Barr really is a disgusting person. I agree with Paul on that comment. And I think that it's a big canard to talk about how this young kid crossed state lines. I mean, look, after the shooting, he tried to give himself up to the police. They didn't want anything to do with him. So what did he do? He went home. He lives 15 miles from there. I mean, yeah, I live in the country. I go into Kentucky. I go into North Carolina all the time. It's not like you're going crossing a border with a passport or anything. I mean, give me a break. I mean, the fact that he's from Illinois and he was in Wisconsin is something to make a federal case of, which is federal law. It's not actually funny. But, I mean, come on. The other thing is, this kid is not going to be convicted. He's going to skate. Every one of his shootings was totally justified. He maintained what cool under fire. I mean, for that kid, they ought to put him in the military or make him a police officer. His ability to handle that situation the way he handled that situation and then just calmly walk down the street was just amazing. So I hope there is a trial, but boy, the media sure is quiet. You notice that? I mean,
yeah.
You notice how quiet it is. When it first happened, you're like, oh no, here we go. The Facebook post, the Nazi uniforms. The kid's clean. And, and I remember I think it was Greensboro, North Carolina, they had radical communists protesting the Ku Klux Klan, and there was a shootout, and the Klan killed like 6 of them. None of the Klan went to jail because the communists showed up with guns and started shooting at them. And they just, like communists everywhere, they're really cowards and they don't know how to shoot, and they're not that smart, So they got, I think 5 of them got killed there. There's videos of it. You can watch it on YouTube. And nobody went to jail. And this case is a lot more justified than that. This kid's gonna, I'm surprised he's still in jail right now, to tell you the truth. And I really don't like the fact that they canceled his GoFundMe. I mean, any other leftist radical can get a GoFundMe anytime, but you got a good kid like that who's not, 17 years old, and, it's just amazing, the double standard. But, it's great. I'm just so proud of that kid. And I hope there's more of them. I think that's what the country needs. We need vigilantes in this country now, because especially a white nationalist, because there's a double standard. I mean, you can see now that as these Antifa communists, Satanists, and Jews and blacks, as they run rampant through the streets, the only thing that causes the police to do anything is really to bring the police in to protect them. So when they start rioting, show up, because then all of a sudden maybe the government will actually get off its ass and do something, because otherwise they're going to let them run riot. It's only when your vigilantes show up that the government might be shamed into showing up. And Bill Barr should resign. These deaths are on his hands, but actually they're good deaths, and I applaud their deaths. And I would recommend people watch what that kid did, because that was he must play video games or something, and just the way he handled that, it was just so well trained. I mean, just amazing. So once again, Sieg Kyle, my friend, and God bless you. I hope there's more of you.
Thank you for the phone call, and we're going to switch over to Al in Canada. Hello, Al. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Mike.
Hi.
Pretty dark days when someone says, a killing is great. What is this? Like 3000 BC? Social media is diabolical. It's data collection.
Yes.
It's indoctrination. And it also allows people to make a whole whack of money, the ones that have always made it, and use it against the people. Is there anything else social media does?
No, it's...
These first-person shooter games have been out for a long time, and I remember a long time ago, someone wrote an article that said that this is what's going to happen. It's the incremental normalization of things, right?
Yes.
So it's okay, pick up arms, start shooting people with bullets that kill. Mike, it's 2020 now. Why are there guns that shoot bullets and not just tranquilizers? Why are the police using bullets to shoot people with? Why can't they shoot them with tranquilizers?
Tranquilizers take too long to have an effect.
Well, then the pharmaceutical companies have a lot to work at, don't they? I see a potential for a huge amount of money. Because which is cheaper in the long run? Pranking someone or shooting someone 7 times, and then who's going to foot the bill for that, Mike? In the end, who's going to foot the bill for that whole fiasco? The taxpayer.
Yes.
In the end, that's who's going to pay. Someone that doesn't even believe what happened should have happened. I mean, there's something wrong with society when people actually think that it's okay to do these things. They're the same people that say that abortion is immoral, but yet going around shooting people isn't. It's great. In fact, we should have more of it. We should televise this, Mike, and charge people money to watch.
Yes.
Like, have we gone off the deep end here?
It seems like we are. It seems like we are. I mean, I'm looking at what's going on across the country and just wondering, where did we lose our way?
Well, we know where. It happened over 100 years ago.
True.
And it had something to do with bankers. We know why this happened and how it happened. It's called greed, lust, greed, and glory.
Yes.
You give someone enough cash, I suppose, and they'll actually believe that what they're doing is moral and somehow justifiable in the long run. I don't see it. Because I don't see how it's good ever to glorify murder on any level. We are talking monkeys, and we keep proving it over and over and over again. We are fresh out of the trees, people.
Mm-hmm.
Keep proving it, because you keep proving it. The 7 deadly sins, Mike, therein lies the problem. Education is the only way that anything is ever going to get accomplished. Because when you mix stupid, and when I say stupid, I mean people that are incapable of critically thinking. When you mix stupid with a lack of education, bad things happen, and they happen a lot. And then you throw in some money in that. Whoa. Now you've got a perfect storm. None of this, what that is going on in the United States, is organic. It's bought and paid for. Like that woman, remember that journalist that was harassed a couple days ago by Black Lives Matter? Put up your hand, put up your hand. They were threatening that chick. You know what she actually did? She says they were for them. Well, she says that. But in actual fact, she just blew the whistle on all those people. So this is what it's come to. Do as I say or else. You know what, Mike? I'd rather put a razor blade to my wrist than live under those kinds of circumstances. Because that's really, really sad, it's diabolical, and it's sick, perverse, and twisted. Those filthy people need to find gainful employment.
Yes.
Gainful. They call it gainful for a reason. Not like a cesspool, some toilet you're going to flush your life down. I wish we had the answer for this, Mike. I mean, we do. It's education.
Yes.
But education has turned into indoctrination, and the person with the most cash wins. They get their way. It's sad. Really sad. I appreciate your time, Mike.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the phone call.
Rant.
I'm sorry?
I said I was hoping what I was saying wasn't going to be a rant.
Well, it was a little bit, but a good one. So thank you very much for the phone call. We're going to switch over to Andy in Texas. Hello, Andy. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind? Okay, it looks like we lost Andy. Let's go to John in Tennessee. Hello, John. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Oh, it's Andy. It's Andy.
It's Andy. Andy, you're there. Okay. Andy, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Mike. No, I really wanted to call in and talk to you about what's happening to our food supply right now. But really what I want to talk about is, give me the time, is I want to talk about this infighting that's going on with your show. I've been watching your show for over 8 years, and you've got some great callers, and the people who are infighting are great callers and stuff. But if this is the Jerry Springer radio show, this would be an awesome show. But I don't tune in for a Jerry Springer radio show. I tune in to hear Mike Rivero give us a bunch of good news, and then I tune in for the reaction to the audience when you open the phone up. But to have somebody yesterday say, I'm calling in tomorrow, ticked off at this guy, and I'm going to use your platform, sir, as a way to infight. Maybe they should find a way to exchange phone numbers and discuss this off air, because a lot of us are getting, I can't speak for a lot of us. I haven't talked to them. I'm getting ticked off. Maybe people share that feeling.
Okay. Your point is well taken. Your point is well taken.
Okay, so having said that, can I go into the food shortage?
Yes, please do.
Okay, so we just looked at a storm that hardly even made the news. They wiped out 10 million acres of corn and other vegetables in the Mideast, and we've got fires burning up our orchards and stuff. Mind you, our governor in California, his orchards are protected very well because he has the power of being the governor. I mean, there's a whole bunch of food being lost here, and that storm that just came in Louisiana and between Texas, it's possibility that the thunderstorms and whatnot could wipe out a whole bunch of rice that we grow and all that other stuff in the Middle East. Not to mention a train derailment. I thought it was in Massachusetts. I could be wrong about that. But they actually lost a whole bunch of corn, and it's funny as heck because it seems to me the pictures I saw, the corn was all laying in between the tracks, and they referenced it as the yellow brick road of the Wizard of Oz.
Yes.
Now, if the train derailed, how did all the corn land between the two rails? So, I mean, there's a lot of things going on right now. I think people really need to do some food storage right now. I mean, if Mike Rivero on his website has a way to get some food, y'all should get it. People, and you know what? The UN said we're headed for the darkest winter ever. Check it out. It's on the UN website. We're headed for the darkest winter ever. I don't know. That sounds to me like they're going to shut our power off. Does anybody get the sense that we might be on our way to being exterminated? So read Alex Huxley, read Crowley, read all these different books. Kissinger, they all speak about getting rid of us. We're not humans, Henry Kissinger. We're not humans. We're in a state of emergency, and people don't see it. They're all still wearing their masks and going along as though as if the government has no problem with taking care of us. This is what we have to do to be taken care of. And yet they're still doing all these things that we're not seeing. And it's amazing that we have time to insight on this radio show, this great platform that we have, and we can't talk about the real problem. And, you know, politics, to me right now, is irrelevant. If Donald Trump could fix this, well, he's been the president at the beginning of this year, and look where we're at. If he's the president of the most powerful country in the world, how come are we still in this hoax? He's got access to the same information we got. And he's not taking it. He's not doing anything about it. All he's doing is he's just progressing along. And at some point, he even wore a mask. And now he's saying wearing a mask is patriotic, but he still doesn't wear one in front of it. People, infighting is just irrelevant. Politics is irrelevant. Survival is the most important thing here. And survival is very important simply because they're making it as though as if you don't need to prep. Okay? They're telling you things are going to be fine. Donald Trump's going to win. He's going to fix this. He hasn't done nothing in the first 8 months of this year. But we're supposed to expect that after the election, he's going to fix this. He hasn't done anything yet. But we're supposed to fix this. And nobody really realizes this. On March 13th, Friday the 13th, and March 13th, he declared a
Andy,
state of emergency.
Andy, I hate to cut you off. We got to let you go and take a break for commercials. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our show. We're going to go right back to the phones to John in Tennessee. Hello, John. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. How you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing fine, except for the thunderstorm overhead.
Yes, yeah. Well, and this hurricane should hit Nashville about noon tomorrow. That's going to be real interesting. The east side of that storm, whatever hits us.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool to watch. It's kind of cool to watch since I come down here because Hurricane Harvey hit, and I set up a camera and I just videotape for time lapse for like 5 hours, just watching the skies go straight north. That'll be interesting to see what that looks like tomorrow. It might go east before it hits you, but you're, like you said, you're getting pummeled right now, right?
Yeah, we are. It's some of the worst lightning and thunder since we moved here.
Okay. No, I wanted to say, it seems your show has changed a little bit since you moved to the States, but, you're doing the right thing. The callers are calling up. Some of them are venting, ranting. I wouldn't call it infighting. You're being a good referee. I know callers are calling out other callers. You're being a good referee. I'd allow that to continue. It's not really Jerry Springer level, but there's a lot of angst going on, and you're letting people get all their ideas out. And it's a public service beyond anything else, because all of us RBN guys, we did try to call into Hannity. We tried to call into Alex Jones. We tried to call. You know what? Those guys aren't going to let us get a word out. They're just not. And the people that get sick of their shtick do end up coming over to alternative media. So keep it up. I don't mind. Tom and he does a 10-minute rant. Everybody's doing it. You just let me do a 10-minute rant the other day.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a lot of good ideas, and everybody's hearing it. And you know what? The bottom line is we are the people with the solution. And we have difference of opinions and everything like that. But what I want to say is consistent with what I said 2 days ago. Pete Buttigieg was on Bret Baier last night.
Yes.
And you know what? He stated the obvious. Under Trump, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get the riots. If we're all agreeing, regardless of party affiliation, that the political elite want us all dead, to die off, that we're useless eaters or whatever they're doing, the best way for them to do it is to have us all kill each other. So divide us, get us to fight. We're not going to give up our guns. So fine, let them all shoot each other in the street, whatever it is. And again, the economy's getting. Come on, if you put your kid through college, I just spent 2 hours with a pharmacy student today, and she's suspicious of 9/11. And she's worried about her employment prospects. And then she told me that people her age don't have a work ethic. She was working at a Walgreens. Now, she's an intern, so she's not getting paid. So she's got to do her time. So she's working at a Walgreens. And all the pharmacy techs see her there, like 3 of them. And all of a sudden, they just start calling in sick to work, and she's there by herself. And she's like, what is it with these people? They just think they can take advantage of the situation because I'm a warm body there? And she's like, I just hate to think if I'll have a job in 10 years and they won't. So she's starting to see things. But again, her father, we talked about him. He's my age. You know, you can't tell your kid, well, just you got that college degree, go get a job. There's going to be no jobs. I mean, again, whatever they're doing, a global financial reset, using COVID as a cover just to do the I mean, they're ramming this country into the ground. And like the guy just said, the thing in Iowa, I didn't know about what happened in Iowa until I was scrolling on TikTok, and some girl made a little 2-minute video about it. She goes, do you even know that we just got devastated by, you know, such and such? You know, I didn't know about it. But yeah, apparently it's going to directly affect the food supply.
Yeah,
so
it is.
Yeah. So and I thought when this COVID crap started, remember, didn't they say there was like a Tyson food plant and
yes.
COVID swept through that? And then Smithfield Foods, which is Chinese owned, for God's sakes. You know, I like NASCAR, but I love telling NASCAR dummies that Smithfield Food is a major sponsor of Tony Stewart, and it's a Chinese-owned company. So those patriotic NASCAR fans can shove that up their rear end. They don't even know. Sorry. But no, Smithfield Foods, same thing. Why don't you just have COVID sweep through there? Now we got a pork crisis. You know, so these people have got us in a place where they can really just, I mean, put us all on edge, hate your neighbor. It's not really about black and white. But like I said, Buttigieg, he said it. This is happening under Trump. And you know what? Trump's going to get reelected, and it's going to continue happening until we all just get sick of it and go, fine, give us a communism. I mean, by consent or conquest, right? Don't we all know those words?
Yes.
We'll have world government by consent or conquest. Well, again, they're going to get it by consent because they're going to make us all just break down, and then people are, I'm still sick of the killing. I have one more point, Mike, if I could hold on.
All right, John, stay on the line. We're going to put you on hold. We'll come back to you after these few words. Welcome back to our show here. We're finishing up with John in Tennessee. And John, you said you had one more point you wanted to make.
Yeah, I mean, I watch Fox News not because I'm looking for solutions, but I'm looking for what's hidden in plain sight, because I do think they use the media outlet to announce what they're going to do to us. And Tucker Carlson the other night made a point, and he said, what's out in the street is not a race war, it's an economic war, it's class warfare.
Yes.
I wouldn't have said it that. I would say the people that are fighting in the streets, it's between the haves and the have-nots is what it is.
Yes.
You take the McCloskeys, and then you take those white kids who are carrying the white burden or carrying the black burden, as the other caller said, and they're just kids that just hate their white successful parents, which again is indoctrination, leftist indoctrination, and they're stupid. And that's really what it's turning down to. The haves and the have-nots are fighting, and the have-nots are the ones being enabled by the government. You know, again, to be totally amoral. And again, let me remind you, Kenosha is Paul Ryan's district. So the
Yes.
people that are going to prosecute or whatever the hell it is, all these people are probably somehow connected to him. You know what I mean? So, you know, let's not forget that. Like, I mean, it's great that it stopped because somebody got killed, and probably everybody second go, I'm not going out there tonight. I might get killed. You know, and that's a good thing. I'm not applauding the deaths. I mean, Kyle did defend himself, but, you know, if the government wants it to get that bad, or they're going to let it get that bad, they're going to, you know what, again, I mean, we all think there could be operatives. So anyway, I just wanted to say that. I think it's the haves and the have-nots are going to keep fighting it out. It's going to continue as long as Trump stays in office. And then just one more thing. Tom in Florida tried to say he thought he knew my politics because I said I don't vote. Everybody should know that I ran for state representative during the Ron Paul era under the Constitution Party banner. They took me on as a candidate. So don't anybody think they know my politics. I'm done with the Republican Democrat thing. So again, it's not blacks and whites fighting in the street. It's not Biden supporters versus Trump supporters. No, it's the have-nots versus the haves. And what they've done in education for the last 50 years is they've gotten these kids to hate their successful parents, and these kids are spoiled and they don't want to work. So thank you, Mike.
All right, thank you very much for the phone call. We're going to switch over to Al in West Virginia. Hello, Al. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, Michael, I didn't have a whole lot there at first, but now I have a lot.
Okay.
I won't be as winded as the rest of them, but your caller was just on there. I have to congratulate him for not making it to office, because I wouldn't want someone like that in office if you're willing to concede, not fight for your country. All right, I got that out of the way. Now let's get to this shooter here, this 17-year-old shooter that was so calm that I keep hearing about. I don't have internet right now where I live so far out at the moment, so I didn't get to see any videos and analyze it, but I know that you was in film at one time. Maybe you can check it out and see what's going on. Sounds to me like it could be possibly, let's not forget that they've pulled false flags on us before. Now, the reason I say this is everybody's talking about how calm this 17-year-old kid is. Well, why wouldn't you be calm if you knew you wasn't going to get shot? Secondly, this other guy supposedly, from what I'm hearing, it walked up to him with a pistol in his hand, and he wasn't worried about getting shot. And the guy with the pistol wasn't pulling it up and shooting at him as he was walking up there towards him. So none of this. So I'm starting to see little discrepancies here that kind of doesn't make sense here. And it could be that maybe Black Lives Matter is losing a little bit of momentum. They thought, for some strange reason, the way the Democrats seem to pull things off, or the Communist Party, that maybe that would rival a lot more people and get this civil war or whatever it is they're
might have been the case
on the way.
If the two guys who got killed were black, but they were white.
Do we know they got killed?
Well,
supposedly what I heard was one got shot in the head, but there was no exit wound.
Well, apparently
the other one got shot in the arm. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, there were three people who were shot, one in the head, one in the chest, and one in the arm. The guy who was shot in the arm is still alive, but he may lose the arm.
Correct. And he couldn't release the gun either, could he? Couldn't release the pistol. Right? The only time I ever seen anybody in combat that couldn't release something was when they was dead. Your body automatically it cringes up automatically. But hey, if this was Hollywood, right?
Yep.
Then it could be that, and supposedly the other guy walked up calmly. With the one that had the rifle was shooting people, walked up calmly to the police. The police didn't draw down on him and shoot him because he was coming towards them with a weapon. And they walked up to the guy that was holding the pistol and took the pistol out of his arm. Now, what kind of an arm would you have that might not be able to lift it up and point and shoot? See what I'm saying? There's something just don't smell right here. And I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying that maybe we need to do a little bit more investigation to figure out what's going on, because we do know that things have been pulled on us before.
Well,
and if it hasn't,
no
then this
question
guy
about that.
done what he's. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I said no question that we've been played with before. But again, if they were going to do a false flag, they would have had black people being shot, because that would have definitely ignited more of the riots.
Well, it could be, but there might be another derivative there that we don't know about. But anyhow, all I'm saying is that if this kid is that good and that calm, now I've been in these situations at 17 years old, and let me tell you something: your adrenaline is running so fast and so hard that you're not going to be real calm at 17 years old unless you've been into this since you was 13 or 14 years old. And I can guarantee you that.
Again,
probably talk to other people.
Yeah. Again, this kid was a police officer wannabe. He was part of this little I don't know if it was an explorer's unit or not, but he was definitely part of a unit that was sort of a youth auxiliary to the police, and he'd obviously been trained to use that firearm. And maybe he played a lot of computer games, a lot of these first-person shooter games, and that's why he didn't. That's why he seemed so calm at the time. Anyway, Al, we're going to let you go. We're running out of time, and we got a lot of callers left to go here. So let's switch to Tom in Florida. Hello, Tom. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yes, Michael. Good day to you. How you doing? Yeah, Michael.
Doing
I just
okay.
want to say to your one caller, Andy. You know, he's a pretty good caller. He makes some really good points, but he's also saying your show's like Jerry Springer or something. And no, your show's too serious for that, Mike, because you got callers who are really trying to express what's really going on in this country. So your show, yeah, we might not have we don't agree with a lot. A lot of us don't agree with each other. That's a given. But you know what? You're not a Jerry Springer show. You're a very serious show, and that's why you got people calling your show. We may not all agree, but at least we have a voice to talk. No, your show is not a comedy show. Your show is a very serious show for our country and our civilization, you know, to strive and survive. So getting that off my chest. And then you had the other caller said, I don't know his politics. You know what? I don't want to really know his politics. I know he was just talking about Tucker Carlson and Fox News and all that. And so be it. Fine for him. But, you know, I like to bash Trump every chance he gets. You know, and what's going on here with immigration. None of your callers were talking about immigration. They're not talking about what's really happening when you got 8.5 million illegals in California and only 5.5 million, 6 million registered Republican voters. So, you know, Mike, you know, now the last call you had was really excellent, really good call. And, you know, Mike, I listened to a show earlier today, and the guy's name was Doug. I hope he calls your show because he's very right on. He's very on point. A lot of these Antifa guys are on drugs. They're taking Thorazine. A lot of these guys are probably taking who knows what they're taking. Fentanyl. Who knows what these guys are on? But there are a lot of them, I guarantee, are drug addicts. Back in the 60s when the hippie movement was going on, Mike, the hippie movement, a lot of those were Israelis. You know that, right?
Yes.
A lot of that pumping up in the 60s when the hippie movement was all perpetrated mainly by Israelis. I don't know if people know that. I know a couple schmucks that told me that. So I got that proven that actually Zon, and they told me that's
hey, Tom? Tom?
Yes.
All right, can you put your mouth like closer to the microphone because, you know, it sounds like you've got the phone underneath your chin.
Can you hear me now?
Much better.
Yeah, okay, Mike. So that's what I wanted to bring out. This guy, Doug, made a great call today, and he was pointing out a lot of things. And, you know, a lot of these Antifa and BLM, they are on the lower ladder of financial success. So, you know, they don't have nothing to lose. So, of course, they're going to start burning down and looting all that because they feel like that they're owed something. Well, you know, 99.9% of the callers that call your show, nobody gave them nothing. They had to work for it. We had to work for everything we got. Nobody gave me nothing. I'm sure most of your other callers, nobody gave them. They worked to get what they have in life.
Yes.
But nowadays, it's like the kids don't want to write cursive. They don't even know how to, they don't even know their history, Mike. It's all, everything's got to be given to them by the government. Give free. Like I told you the other day. Give me a free hammock. Give me a free tree to sleep under. I mean, it's unbelievable what's going on here. But, you know, Mike, the narrative is what I really want to talk to you about is I know you haven't had a chance probably to see Uncle Tom and, you know, White Man's Burden. I hope you get around to that.
I did watch part of it this morning.
What, Uncle Tom?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I really believe, you know, Mike, I just talked to my friend's daughter, and she's going to the university here in Florida, and she said she's taking that DVD and passed it on to two other friends. They pass it on to friends. They're all going to switch parties, or they're going to all vote independent. They're going independent. I tell you, that's how powerful that kind of a documentary is. They're trying to shut Candace Owens up. They're trying to say she's on drugs, she's crazy, she's this and that. I mean, just think of the threats Candace Owens is under, Mike, and the threat and the filthy names they call this woman, who's just trying to point out, wake up your brain. I mean, you've been stymied for what, 90 years, 100 years with this nonsense of the Democratic Party, Mike. Your great state of Indiana, they have a guy who great. I tell you, I think Pence made a great speech yesterday at Fort McHenry with the flag there and the Star Spangled Banner. I mean, Come on, Francis Scott Key. How can you compare these conventions, Mike? How can you compare that doom and gloom demon rat convention to a guy like Pence and the Republican Party is trying to uplift this country? And all this, we've been through wars, we've been through everything, and we still our flag is still there, Mike. Our flag is still there. And you got people want to hate this flag. And, here again, with immigration, Mike, me and you we always feel the same on this. These sanctuary mayors, these sanctuary governors, I don't know what's going to happen, but that's the one reason I want to see Trump getting back in office. Because if he doesn't arrest these mayors and these governors, then you know what? He ain't doing his job as commander-in-chief of this country. He is not being the president of this country that he should be. I guess his hands are so tied right now because of this election that Trump is like he's hand-tied as far as doing anything. But I have a feeling 6 months after the election, if Trump gets back in there, I guarantee you're going to see more wall getting built, and you're going to start seeing a lot of these mayors and these governors being arrested for, like you said, Mike, Title 8. That's what it's all boiled down to. When you got 8 million illegals in a state, and you got more of them than you got the Republican registered voters, what is going on with the leadership? And not only, don't blame the Republicans, all your callers, it's the Democrats too, because they're sponsoring all this. The Democrats, they're all behind it. It's a whole cabal. And they want cheap labor, whatever. But, it's worse than that, Mike, because environmentally, what are all these millions of illegals doing for our country environmentally, Mike? What are they doing for our country?
Not much.
Sewage, water, electricity, forest fires. Then you got all these angel mothers and fathers. One thing I hope Trump does tonight, I want him to bring up a couple angel mothers and fathers to speak. That's what he needs to do. He's got to bring those angel mothers up there, at least one of them. Pence did a great job about that yesterday in his speech. But he's got to start talking more about these illegals. Because, Mike, right now we're looking at BLM and Antifa, but pretty soon we're going to be looking at one of these, you're going to be rioting with these illegal aliens. Remember, there's millions of these people here. Billions. And nobody's talking about it. And the people who are running their platform are just as bad as BLM in a lot of ways, Mike. Don't you agree?
I agree.
Yes. And, here some of your callers call in like, hey, look, whatever politics you have, fine. But I know where I come from right now, and I'm praying it stays that way. I know your state's probably a lot more red than not where I'm at. But you know what? To allow our state to turn out like New York and New Jersey? No way, man. No way. Now with all these they want to put a state income tax here in Florida then, and all these people are fleeing their states, Mike. Get away from their state income tax and their crime rates, their horrible crime rates. And by the way, Mike, did you ever do a study on the raping of women of different ethnic groups getting raped?
Yeah, somebody sent me some of that information, and I was looking at it, and it's primarily white women who are being victimized.
That's right. Just like in Europe. The same thing's going on in Europe, Sweden, and all that.
About the rape in the Bronx, where the guy who raped this 20-year-old white woman said he did it because of slavery.
Yeah, I heard that. That made me, Mike. That made me squat. I was cringing, Mike. I was ready to jump out of my skin. But did you hear about the beautiful white girl and her father? They got a fender bender car accident. The young guy the black guy walked up and shot them both dead.
Yeah, I heard about that.
That's in South Carolina. Where's the rioting for that, Mike? Why aren't 5,000 white people rioting for that? Or go to the South Carolina courthouse and demand that this guy be persecuted to the full extent of the law. It's unreal. A little white 5-year-old boy murdered in front of his 2 little sisters, Mike. That's like the most horrible crap I ever heard in my life.
The media won't put any focus on it. The media barely touched the 5-year-old boy. The corporate media is barely touching the story about this father and daughter getting killed. You have to go to the independent media to find that, and the independent media doesn't quite have the reach. Plus, we're not in the business of starting riots over here.
Mike, do you know that girl? He shot her in the neck, Mike. She had a bullet wound in her neck. He shot her in her neck, Mike. Beautiful,
hey, Tom,
girl.
we got to let you go. We're down to the end of the show, and I got 3 more phone calls I'm going to try and get through in the last segment of our program. Thanks a lot, Tom. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go back to the phones here. Chance in West Virginia. Hello. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yes. Hello, Mike. Before I get to my point, I want to say, I don't know about anybody else, but let's get to the meat and taters here. My only responsibility or burden is to feed, clothe, shelter, and protect my family and loved ones at any cost. That's all I got to say. Now, the reason I called is about this Rittenhouse kid. It's very interesting. There was a book that was written by a man named Stan Rittenhouse in 1982. The title of the book is For Fear of the Jews. It's an anti-New World Order and anti-Zionist book. I was just wondering if this kid is related somehow. Maybe this would be his grandfather, I would presume. This Stan Rittenhouse. Have you ever heard of this book, Mike?
No, I haven't, and I have no way of knowing if Kyle is related to Stan at all.
Well, it would be interesting to check out. I would presume it could be his grandfather or a relation. Now, this Stan Rittenhouse came from a long line of patriots in America since the 1600s. He was a stockbroker, and he was a first lieutenant in the Army. After he wrote this book, they burned his house down. So he made quite a few enemies. Like I said, I don't know if this book is still in print. It was printed in 1982. Like I said, it was Stan Rittenhouse, and the title is For Fear of the Jews. It might be interesting to check that out, Mike. Okay, thank you for taking my call.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch over to Miles in Maine. Hello, Miles. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, aloha, Michael. Great call by Joe. Good call by Paul. Of course, Tom. You know, by conquest or by consent, that guy sounds to me like he already gave up, and I'm with Al. What the hell do we need him for? And by the way, Chance, that's your Constitution Party for you. We can't even get on the ballot in every state, but we're going to waste the vote any way we can. Yeah, so anyway, all I got to say is right on, right house, or whatever the guy's name is, you know, right on, kid. You know, it's a good thing we got a couple kids, probably homeschool. And then, you know, we got this other guy here. Let's try a tranquilizer gun. I mean, are you serious? The police are getting attacked more than ever. You're going to, what are we, relocating a deer herd, or what the hell's going on here? Wake up, man. You know, I mean, why don't we just get out a pocket watch on a long chain and hypnotize them and, you know, take them into custody? I mean, honestly, Mike, what's going on here? But, you know, my point I really wanted to make is, you know, we're seeing all these riots and all this stuff. Now, when any of these other groups, they're sued, their money, their assets are taken, and they got to pay for the police and pay for the property damage. I haven't seen it one time yet. Well, what's going on with that? What do you think that might be something beneficial? I mean, they got millions and millions of dollars from Walmart, Verizon, and Home Depot, Lowe's, which everybody should be boycotting. You know, why don't we take their money and rebuild these cities with it?
All right, well, Miles, this is the end of the show. You can hear the music, and we're going to have to let you go. And my apologies to those callers waiting on hold that couldn't get on the air today. Please try and call back tomorrow, which will be Friday, and we'll have the lovely Lady Claire with us in hour number 2. Steve Elkins is taking over the Intel Report, so stay tuned for him. I'm sure he's got lots of interesting things to share with you. And please spread the word of Republic Broadcasting, spread the word of whatreallyhappened.com. Please donate. We need all the help that we can get from you. And we'll be back tomorrow. Aloha, America.